Good afternoon, everyone. I have the pleasure of presenting to you today The Unseen Struggles, a systems view of mental health challenges faced by newcomers in Canada. My name is Emily Rocha, and my partner, Emmanuel. Canada is recognized globally for its inclusive immigration policies. It identifies as a multicultural, diverse nation. Every year at the border, we welcome immigrants, international students, refugees, because we need immigration to thrive. 1 out of every 4 Canadians is foreign-born, just so you know. We constitute about 23% of Canada's population. Immigrants are crucial to Canada's strategic, demographic, and economic prosperity goals. So, their successful integration, well-being, and mental health are very important to Canada's future. We ourselves are newcomers, which is why we were compelled to explore this subject. We came here with ambitious goals and honestly a hope for a better life and future, and were met with systemic barriers that impacted our mental health and deterred us from those goals, which led us to explore deeper these probing questions leading our research. What structural factors contribute to the mental health challenges faced by newcomers? How do social, economic, and cultural barriers impact the mental health of newcomers? And how can existing support systems be realigned to better cater the needs, complex needs of newcomer mental health?
So for us to understand this issue better, we decided to explore it with multiple lenses. We looked at the system thinking lens, trying to establish how the issues and the elements interrelate. We also tried to look at data available from public sources, and then using our own lived experiences and informal discussions with our peers. Since we are newcomers, we wanted to form a holistic view that can give us an all-encompassing understanding of what the issues are, how they interrelate, whether there are boundaries or connections between them, and to see a better picture of what it is. But so that you get it, we already said that 1 in 4 Canadian residents is a newcomer or a foreign-born. At the same time, bigger cities like Toronto even have 1 in 2 of their population coming from outside Canada as newcomers. So you find that Canada is also planning to welcome 500,000 newcomers in this year. So this is something affecting a large population of Canadian residents, and they're experiencing issues like anxiety, stress, trauma, depression, things that hinder their progress to contributing to the economic dreams that Canada has. At the same time, housing insecurity, and with the Canadian population, the Canadian-born population, there are beliefs that some mixed beliefs about what immigrants constitute. For some, immigrants are a blessing. For others, they are a nuisance. That's like mixed views. And so trying to understand through this landscape, we use tools like the Iceberg Model to see how these interrelate. We did find that it is layered, and at the surface you can find the symptoms like the anxiety I described, and beneath it we are now seeing patterns that, credentials are not recognized and it's causing stress for the immigrants. There are uncertainties and many other things that are related to deeper structures beneath that, and at the base there are mental models. So we got some kind of pictorial understanding, but it was not enough. We decided to even go further, trace the journey of a newcomer, understanding that the context for a newcomer starts from even their pre-migration environment, their home country. What kind of experiences did they have in their home country? Were they people who have suffered some kind of trauma? Was it war? Was it some kind of educational or career dreams that brought them to Canada? And what kind of immigration process did they go through? So tracing that journey and then understanding how the environment in Canada has shaped their transition onto their plans to eventually acclimatize and adapt in Canada. So tracing this journey further, we decided to then see how we can map this relationship in a way that can form a proper understanding that connects what existing research says about immigration with our own experiences, and keeping it in a pictorial way so that it can shape any kind of interventions that are supposed to address this. So this is our own idea, but with our idea we can say that the issues happen at different dimensions. some are at the individual level, the micro level, and at the macro level. So we were able to trace 5 dimensions. That is where we can identify relationships that govern the experience that the newcomer faces. And so at the core is the individual. And at the next level is the dimension of his well-being, where economic well-being, social well-being, and psychological well-being contributes to his progress or undermining his mental health. And then above this is the contextual environment, things like the experience they had coming to Canada, or even the experience in the Canadian society, their progress getting a job, and all those kind of things. And then the stakeholders, who are actors that either influence their positive outcomes or negative outcomes. And at the macro level, the beliefs that shape public opinion, and how it influences policy, and how those policies even influence the actors, and how those actors influence the environment, and how the environment now influences your well-being, and how that then shapes the mental health outcome for the individual. So this is our own representation of how best we could think about it. But we know that it is multidimensional, and the interactions are happening from level to level to level. And there are some that are very difficult to visualize, very difficult to see, but they really influence things. And if we go to the global picture, today we are seeing that many countries are shutting their door to immigration because public opinion is shifting, and it's quickly affecting policy, affecting election outcomes, and it's causing stress, anxiety, trauma for the individuals. Whereas Canada is a multicultural society that needs immigration for its success. So we need to learn the right way and take the right decisions. So this explains that at different levels, we have different kind of interactions. At the core, it's focused mostly on the internal individual and immediate environment. While at the macro level, we can see issues that are more broad in perspective, affecting what the outcomes that people face. And so, if I'll give a simple example of interactions at the second level for focus, you'll see that a person's well-being is affected by housing security that affects financial well-being. And so that reinforces whether he is going to get social inclusion, because not having a house means that even social interactions will be limited. And that also influences eventually the psychological well-being. And that determines whether the person will have positive outcomes or negative outcomes. So we can trace those kind of interactions across each of the layers and dimensions that we try to identify. And we can also see interactions across the layers too, where immigration policy is shaped by public belief because politicians do not want to lose elections. And eventually that affects the narrative about newcomers, and media and everything then pushes the kind of interactions that we see with newcomers. It causes anxiety, stress, uncertainty, and it leads to mental outcomes that they experience. So this is how best we were able to depict our model. It's like compressing existing theories and things that we understand. So some of the stakeholders here, they all are actors at the 4th level of the model that we were able to describe, the 4th dimension. And seeing the dimension, tracing it from the core to the well-being dimension, to the contextual and environmental factors, and onwards, we can trace it to the stakeholders and then to the macro level.
So we discovered that levers of change need to be multidimensional. They need to tackle every layer. We need cross-sector collaboration. We need scalable strategies. We need preventative investment for our success. Here we can see a table for every layer and what levers of change we discovered, like housing access, policy reform, narrative at the personal level. Amongst this, we had many insights and lessons learned. We were able to be challenged by this project for a deeper understanding, and we think that potentially we can even translate our systems map to other vulnerable groups like Indigenous peoples, like LGBTQ+ members, or low-income Canadians that have faced similar systemic challenges like economic insecurity, social isolation, multi-generational trauma that can further damage Canada's future. Another thing that we found in our research was that there's a really weird mental health decay when immigrants come here. It's called the healthy immigrant effect. Above average health markers upon arrival decay the longer the person stays in Canada. Why is this? Are we perpetuating this situation? Are we incrementing systemic barriers that don't help them settle and integrate? Let's build resilient systems. Let's build inclusive systems with mental health, well-being, equity, and inclusion built in, not added on. Thank you.